Hello, everyone, and welcome to StreamYard's Industry Showcase. Today, we're going to be focusing on community builders. So first, as usual, please let us know where you're tuning in from. I'm personally tuning in from the suburban area of Chicago, Illinois, and I can't wait to get started. My name is Presley Renner. I've been hosting this live series if you've seen it before, and I host another live series called Grow with StreamYard. We have another one coming up in March, so please stay tuned. I am a live event producer. I'm a StreamYard specialist, and I love this product, so I cannot wait to talk about how we can use it to build and engage our community. We have a very exciting episode planned today where we'll engage with strong leaders who choose StreamYard to rally their communities. Engagement is one of the most important aspects of live streaming in general, and in today's showcase, we hope to learn how to build an interactive, entertaining streaming experience for our community. StreamYard helps in building and strengthening communities all over the world. So today, we have gathered the best of the best to give us the most exclusive tips. In this showcase series, we hope to produce content specific to your industry so that we can learn from the professionals and experts on how to best utilize StreamYard with tools, plans, and strategies. Just like you, we seek to build and strengthen our community via StreamYard live streams. So we hope to learn how to do that even better today from our leaders and of course from you in the comments. So please sound off in our live chat on any tips that you have to share on community building, because we love to see how your communities are growing and expanding using the StreamYard product. So a little housekeeping as usual for today. Our closed captioning service is provided by Aberdeen Broadcasting Services, and you can find the link to a separate window below the video. Our stage chat is to the right of your screen, and if you want to focus on the stage content, you can minimize the whole side section by clicking the icon with one vertical line and a small arrow. If you want to participate in the live Q&A throughout the event, please add your questions to our chat so that we can bring them up on screen with Hop-In Backstage, powered by StreamYard. To adjust your volume, you can change the settings either on your computer speaker or at the bottom left of the corner video viewer. If we suddenly freeze on the screen, it's all right. Just refresh your page and we should come right back to normal viewing. So now let's go on and start our panel discussion with Dana.
Hey, Presley. Thank you so much for that intro, and welcome everyone to another StreamYard showcase. So we have such an incredible panel of speakers today. I'm personally super excited because, like you said, Presley, community is so important to StreamYard. That's how we got started in the early days with our Facebook community group, and StreamYard kind of just took off from there. So our expert panelists today. First, we have Sammy Hepburn. She's the Senior Manager of Global Communities at Sneak. She's spent the last 10 years in London becoming a well-known face in the tech scene. Her main aim is to create environments for individuals to feel welcome and for communities to flourish. Working with a variety of organizations within London and now further afield in the UK and globally building some of the largest tech communities in the world. And Kyle Paul. Kyle Paul works for Google on the developer ecosystem team. His role is to build, scale, and support the core server community and experts program. In his spare time, he enjoys building and hacking on the web, playing with his 2 cats, and photographing the outdoors. Before Google, Kyle was a startup co-founder and organizer for GDG Kansas City and a Google developer expert.
Our next speaker is Nicole Weir. She graduated in 2014 from the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point with a major in communication. She started as an intern immediately following graduation at her alma mater in the advancement unit. She's been in that unit working her way up for the past 8 years, helping to build a communications and marketing team for the advancement unit, and most recently also taking over the annual giving program. She and her husband met together in the unit and are loving fur parents to their 2 dogs and 2 cats. Michael Yoder, our next speaker, is currently responsible for overseeing Spectrum Health's social media, paid and organic, presence. This includes 50 plus channels. Working with Spectrum's strategic partners, Hootsuite and Brandwatch, he maintains the enterprise tools used for publishing, monitoring, and reporting on Spectrum's activity on social media. Additionally, he leads and manages Linked Up Grand Rapids, a business social networking group of nearly 18,000 members based in the greater Grand Rapids, West Michigan region. Wow. We have some amazing guests.
Well, welcome to the stage, everyone. Hey. So let's kick things off. I want to know, what is your most memorable live show or live event? Should we start with you, Kyle?
I think there's a little bit of audio issue. Didn't really catch what you said. Sorry. The most memorable live show or event that I've done with StreamYard is we held a TensorFlow Everywhere event, and we used StreamYard, had it pumped out to YouTube Live, and so from there, it went very well. The event was super exciting because we had only planned on it being a one-day event, but we had so much interest in TensorFlow and all the content that we were putting together. The audience just wanted more content, so we expanded to a second day, and StreamYard allowed us to do that, and wound up being a super fun event. So that was my most memorable event using StreamYard. It was super easy to really scale up our virtual event.
Awesome. And the community loved it, I assume?
Yes. I mean, when we expanded to the full 2 days, we had tons of feedback. The live interaction, the comment section was just on fire the entire time, so it was great.
Love it. Love to hear it. Okay, who wants to go next? Sammy, do you want to go next?
Of course I will, although I'm not too sure if that feedback's coming from me, so I do apologize if it is. But I definitely have to say one of my most memorable shows was actually just as COVID hit. We had seen a lot of conferences cancel and everyone trying to figure out exactly what they were doing. And in about 3 weeks, we decided to spin up a virtual 3-stream conference for all the tech folks out there. So for all the sessions that got canceled, would bring them all together. It was called All the Talks. And we live streamed across a number of different places and sort of brought everyone together. So it was a really fun way of bringing this community together, especially before we were all Zoom fatigued and kind of watching a lot of virtual things. And all this great content had been canceled. And as I said, it was kind of 3 weeks from ideation to execution. So a lot of fun and learning and crash courses very, very quickly on how to get things done.
Wow, that's crazy. And I'm assuming it helped your community too. Similarly to Kyle, you saw the same results.
Yeah, definitely. And it helped us learn very quickly. So as we adapted over the last 2 years, it was just, we had learned it all very quickly.
Yeah. I think we were all kind of forced to, become experts in online immediately, as soon as we all were forced online. So Nicole, what about you?
Yeah, this was an interesting one for me. I'm pretty sure I use StreamYard in a way that most people here don't. We actually host a coffee talk show. When we do it, we don't use it for conferences or anything, it's fun to listen to how other people use it. But I would say we had a coffee talk show in person so very similar to Sammy, when the pandemic hit, we were working from home, we had to figure out what to do. And one of the coolest ways in that first month that we did it is we actually held a day of sewing. We used to have the Alumni Association I'm in, we had day of service events so that alumni around the world could give back to their communities. And so when the pandemic happened and we weren't able to get masks on campus, we actually found an alum who could teach sewing and teach people how to make masks. And so then we live streamed how to make masks, and we had a bunch of different opportunities throughout the day to tune in, to ask questions and go from there. And then we actually also had her daughter, who was in high school, also take over and teach, so that there were, kids involved as well. And we made, I lost count, but we had thousands of masks that people got to make and give to their communities, as well as send to campus. And we still use them at events today. We bring alumni made masks to our in-person events. So we've had a lot of fun guests over the last few years that we've been doing it. But I'd say as far as event memorable wise, that was probably it.
And is that the only like physical live stream show you've done where it's like you're teaching a class and everyone at home's kind of doing their like following along?
No, we've done a couple others, but mostly we use it to just get to know some really cool alumni. We've had alumni who, the one that's most memorable for me is he actually got to help use AI technology to map out the Titanic, as well as the Christ of Tomb, or the Tomb of Christ. And so we
Wow.
had him on as a guest, and we've used it in that way. We had a musical guest who gave a performance. We couldn't have them, so we've used it in a bunch of different ways, just basically showcasing our alumni and the different things that they do. So mostly we use it as a talk show, but we've had a couple other fun stuff in there.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. And Mike, what about you? What's the most memorable live show or live event that you've done?
Well, the pandemic really forced us into, leveraging this type of technology as much as possible. As a very large health system, you can imagine how critical it was for us to get information out in a timely manner, because things have been changing rapidly as we go through the pandemic. So one of the series that we started was a community conversations series. And throughout this series, it involved different groups of people that we engaged with virtually through StreamYard to talk about different issues. Some of them involved diversity, equity, and inclusion, because minority communities were adversely affected by the pandemic. And so we invited community members, community leaders, civic officials to join us in conversations around the topic of COVID and the impact it was having on our communities and access to care and all the different things related to the pandemic. So that's been a really, really important way for us to leverage StreamYard.
And I love how all of your different perspectives, on community can be helpful to anyone who's trying to build community. Like Mike, you said at Spectrum, you're such a huge health organization, but the tips and tricks and the your wisdom in building community is useful to even a mom and pop shop who wants to build a local community. So thank you for that. And I want to throw the next question to Presley, but I first want to say, if you have any questions out there in the audience for our panelists today, let us know. Just drop them in the live chat here, and we'll do a live Q&A portion at the end. Okay, next question. Press, you're on mute. Do you have...
I got it. Yeah, thanks. I was just thinking how amazing it is, the diversity of different events and how they can just help the entire community in learning to get comfortable with this tool. So for the next question, do you have a routine or mantra before going live?
I can jump into this one. When we do a live conference, we especially if we run 24-hour conferences sometimes, and so not necessarily before we go live, but we'll always have like another room kind of in the background open, so we have a bit of a war room. Everyone, if you're in a face-to-face event, you can see each other, and there's a bit of not just staring at a screen hoping for the best. So we have a separate sort of room open, so that we can have sort of off-channel conversations and still laugh and have fun. And then we always have eggs for breakfast. So we share photos of our eggs. And so just a little thing we started in the pandemic that's a bit silly and stupid, but it makes us feel a bit like of a community in the back end as well of how we're sort of bringing these events to life. So yeah, war room at the back and some eggs.
I love that. So creative. Never heard that before. Mike, what about you?
Well, we do something a little similar. We use Microsoft Teams. So if there's a group helping us monitor and keep everybody on track, we might have a chat going in Microsoft Teams during the broadcast. But and before going live, we'll check in there. But then we'll have the people that are in the broadcast, and typically we do the standard things. Mic checks, making sure everybody looks good on camera. I struggle with that, but I'm pretty good at making other people look good. So, just the basic things, making sure people remember to turn off their cell phone notifications and other things that might interfere with the broadcast, and just kind of the standard tech check, if you will.
Got it. What about you, Kyle?
Yeah. So, as the fellow panelists mentioned, you do the standard tech check. But one thing that I personally do is, as we've mentioned, when we hopped into this pandemic, we're all on screen a lot more. There's the different lighting that we're using. And so I used to speak on stage a lot, and I didn't really have to worry about it that much. But now that I'm on camera, I noticed I have a little oily skin. And so I use these little charcoal wipes to kind of help with the oily skin a little bit. And, just because I'm going on camera, and it helps reduce the reflectivity a little bit. So just being a little real on, kind of what we do behind the camera when we're getting ready for the stage.
Oh my gosh, that's so neat. And to hear like you came from the in-person perspective, and you had to do these things there. And this is just like, turning it virtually. We still got to keep lots of those in-person those things that you do. That's so funny and so relatable. We can all see the the glare of our ring lights. Yep. Oh, I love it. Nicole, any mantras, any routines that you have?
Yeah, I'd say, again, a lot of the similar things, but I'd say a different thing that we tend to do is I like to make our guests feel comfortable. My audiences are not all that tech savvy. And so I always, whenever we start, as I tell them, you just have to sit there. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to hit go live. You don't have to touch the comments. So we make sure they have a drink. Because often if you're nervous or you're not sure what to do, people like to fiddle with something. So we make sure that they have a drink, which is what I have now. And then I walk through the technical stuff, and I basically just say, you know what, just hang out, have a conversation. I was talking to my husband before we went live today, and I said, it's a whole different world. I'm not staring at 90 plus people. I'm having a conversation with friends. And so that's the mantra we like to go with when we're talking to them. Don't worry about who's watching on whatever platform. Just have a conversation with friends. And we've actually seen it's been a lot more comfortable, and you get a lot better results too conversationally when you're not worried about who's watching or how it's going. You're just having a conversation with friends.
Yeah, I love that. And it takes so much of the nerves away, when it's not like, oh, I'm speaking to an auditorium.
Yeah, and it's like, still have the nerves, you can hold something.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. And I think most of our shows, especially if your main content is interviewing a guest or having different guests on weekly, most of the content is the content that you're asking them about. Like all of you panelists are our content, and so making them feel comfortable and like they're free to share. I think that makes your show so much better. So I like that you're focusing on that. So next question I want to jump into, and out there in the audience, you can answer this too. How did you all find StreamYard?
I'll volunteer to go first if you want. Mine's probably not like anyone else's. When the pandemic happened, we had to keep our way to engage our alumni and to produce content, right? And we weren't in person. And so it's hilarious. The first time we went live, I had like a laptop and my phone, and I was like, I don't know how to do this. And so I went on a deep Google dive. I did not find it from a friend or an ad. I literally sat in the night in the start of the pandemic and did a bunch of research, and I found a bunch of different streaming services. But again, I'm working with alumni who, one of them they weren't sure what a browser was. They were trying to log into Google, and he didn't understand that he needed to use Google Chrome, not just Google. And so these are the kind of people we're working with, right? And then some of my fellow classmates that also know how to do everything. And so when I was looking at these, I was just researching and Googling and live streaming to my personal page and then deleting it quickly to see what was the best. And
Love that.
StreamYard was the best. It is the easiest to use. I now tell everyone we have as a guest, I let them know so that they can use it to build their communities. But literally me just being a nerd in the background trying to find something that worked.
And you do the thing that most of us, I think, do, stream really quick, see if it's working, and then just delete it. That's the test.
Yep. And I just wanted to make sure I like I said, there were like 6 or 7 I found, and StreamYard was the easiest, and I've never looked back.
Love that. Thank you. Love to hear that.
Yeah, I can jump in too. And so we were back when LinkedIn Live was in beta. They gave us a list of third-party streaming providers, and StreamYard was on that list, and we tried it out and loved it because of the simplicity, the ease of use. Up to that point, I had not been a video producer, so gosh, in this last year, 18 months, we've done over 41 StreamYard broadcasts and recordings. So,
wow, congratulations!
If I can do it, you can do it. So, but that's how we initially found StreamYard and fell in love with StreamYard from there. It's worked really well for us.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you must have been, one of the first people to go live on LinkedIn if you were part of the beta access program. I think that was back in 2018, 19, long time ago.
It's been a little while.
Yeah. Wow. Neat.
I've lost track of time during the pandemic, so I couldn't tell you for sure.
Yep, I'm the same way. Who else?
Yeah, ours was more of a step up process. So we had live streaming on YouTube and Twitch and a few other places using different distribution platforms, but mainly using Zoom, I suppose, as our environment. And it was really good to figure out exactly what we wanted to do when we were still a bit scrappy. And then we wanted to up our production, but looking for something that was easy to use. And, some of us, we do events for tech-savvy humans, but it didn't mean we wanted to do a lot of like post-production and design assets. And we had used other tools for our bigger scale events. We were plugging even StreamYard into a lot of different tools, but we're looking for something a little bit more seamless and easy. And we actually found StreamYard through a Twitter interaction. So we had kind of put it out to the universe and gone, what should we use? And the developer community came back and said, StreamYard. And so after a little poking and prodding, I'm now absolutely in love with it. We run so much. We've got a number of different communities, and we scale out to use our community to run events for us, and all that stuff allows us to do it on StreamYard. So it was kind of a step up. And I love that you could put people backstage. So if anyone hasn't used StreamYard before, when you join a Zoom call, you're on, you're live on right now, and everyone pops in and bings and boops, whereas StreamYard, you can go backstage and control how people come in and out of the screen. So it feels like production ready without having to actually be a producer.
Yeah. And I love that we all kind of talked about it in the beginning. Not only can you join the backstage, but StreamYard's planning on another way to, have another type of backstage, like before we get to the true backstage. And it sounds like that's a very welcomed feature. Yeah. So just teasing that one, like we
currently spun up a whole separate StreamYard called Green Room, and then we train people in the green room, and then we bring them to the live room. So we run 2 StreamYards at the same time at the moment.
Yeah, but you can't do that on Zoom unless it's totally different meetings. It's not seamless like it should be. Yeah. And another point I wanted to make, Sammy, is like you and your team are like extremely tech savvy, but you choose the easy one, the easiest tool to live stream, so that you don't have to worry about, all the production, all the editing, all the graphics. You just want it to be simple so you can actually focus on the content.
Exactly. And we can scale it out, right? So our team might be we're a bunch of, sort of engineers and developer relations people and community people. Mm-hmm. But it still doesn't mean we need a a tool that will allow no one to support and help us and scale. So, scaling,
Exactly.
making something really difficult is not going to help that. Whereas we can now leverage our community to do more because it's simple and easy.
Yep, exactly. Oh, I love it. And someone in the comments said they also found StreamYard on LinkedIn too. Mike, very neat. You found it the same way. Kyle, what about you?
Very similar to Sam. I don't quite remember how we exactly learned of StreamYard, but to my best recollection, it was via our community. They actually reached out, when the pandemic hit. They were like, "Hey, can we use StreamYard for our meetups and stuff?" And so for what we do at Google, we do things like with Google developer groups, the GDGs. We have Google developer student clubs, and so these were in-person communities that were forced, like us, to go virtual. And so helping and empowering them, like, here's other additional tools that you can use. And so they found StreamYard, let us know about it, and that's where, for, like Sam was mentioning, for our larger production events at Google, we have a lot of other tools that we use. But for some of our more community-focused events, so I also used to host a virtual podcast called Between the Brackets. That was we would bring in experts. The show is still running. I'm no longer the host of it, but we would bring in experts to talk about different things, and we use StreamYard for that. So much like my fellow panelists were talking about, it's great to have that virtual interview. You get that FaceTime, the friendly chat. You're bringing in live questions from the audience. So that's what we used it for. So a lot of our more community focused stuff. And thanks to the community for letting us know about it.
That's awesome. Love it. Okay, next question.
Yeah, so we know the why. Now I'm curious, what exactly, and maybe this is more technical or larger in a larger sense, but what is it that you actually use StreamYard for?
I can go if you want. So we use StreamYard for a number of different things. Obviously, we mentioned conferences and things like that, but we live stream across. So depending on what type of event we're running, we'll always live stream on YouTube, and then that'll also be plugged into things like Twitch or conferencing platforms like Hopin and other solutions, depending on exactly what we're doing. But we use StreamYard as the environment we live in, so the environment that we can interact with each other, our audiences. You've obviously seen your own comments come up live on stage. StreamYard allows you to do that, which a lot of other tools don't. So that's really nice to bring through. And we do that mainly to engage with our developer audience. So we'll do things like live AMAs. We've got something called chapter events where our community runs locally run communities in their area. With the COVID and everything like that, we had to do that virtually, and we'll keep live streaming those even when we go back into person, because of accessibility and allowing people to actually consume content, regardless of whether they can make a 6 p.m. after work beer and pizza at a meetup. That is great and lovely, but it does fit with the specific type of human. And then the other things we use it for is empowering I work for an organization called Sneak, and we do a lot of education and enablement, and we do that through StreamYard. We're actually kicking off in a couple hours a 24-hour live stream called The Big Fix, where we're sort of fixing security vulnerabilities for 24 hours all around the world, bringing in a lot of hosts, and that allows us to do that too. So it's crazy how much you can do with StreamYard.
Yeah, and I love what you said about accessibility. It really just allows everyone and anyone to come join an event where maybe otherwise they wouldn't have been able to. It just adds just a certain level of versatility to event planning, which is just so cool. So that's awesome to hear how you use that.
I can go next. I'll talk a little bit, since this is about community building, a little bit more strategically, I guess, as opposed to, like I said, we have a coffee show. We try to go live at least 2 to 3 times a month. We're a very small shop with a very small budget, a little different than my fellow panelists. But StreamYard has allowed us to engage with people that we wouldn't otherwise be able to. Before the pandemic, before we tried to look for a virtual option, we had to interview people that could come to campus, that were in the area, that could find the time for us. This has allowed us to interview people that we would not have been able to engage with otherwise. And my main end game is to engage with our alumni community and build a pipeline for donors, right? I am in the fundraising business, and we know that interviewing people is a good relationship builder. And this has allowed us to interview people that we would never have been able to interview. And they fall in love with it and they feel connected again. And so, you know, I always joke when I tell our team, I wouldn't say this to a guest, but when I tell our team is it's not actually always about who's watching, right? It's about being able to showcase, giving them a link that they were able to use after and say, look it, I was on this live coffee show, and they were able to take that and then be really proud and excited about their alma mater. And it's just another way to re-engage your community. And so it's not always about, you know, everyone watching as it is about as much as it is about the guest and engaging them and utilizing that as a tool for helping them feel connected. And we've seen a direct correlation between those we've had on our show and engagement afterwards with our day of giving, with wanting to volunteer at things. And so StreamYard has really allowed us to do that because, again, I can't bring someone who is working in, we had a guest from China, you know, we can't bring her to campus. We had someone, Kathy Kinney, from the Drew Carey show. She was Mimi in the Drew Carey show. She was in California, and we got to interview her during the pandemic, and we would not have been able to make that connection otherwise. So I guess for me, you know, StreamYard is just the tool that allows us to really use it as a relationship builder.
Yeah. And from all over the world, you know, you can have any guests. We went from, you know, if you did a podcast before the pandemic, you had to meet with them, you know, at the school. Whereas now it's like they could be anywhere.
Yeah.
In China.
Yeah. And again, they don't have to live here or be on campus to make a gift and support their alma mater. They can do that from anywhere. So being able to re-engage and connect with them, it's been a huge change maker for us.
And I want to come back to what you said, Nicole, like how you're measuring the success. You're seeing that engagement from those alumni that are on the show. You're seeing benefits from that. But we'll talk about measuring success just a bit later. Mike or Kyle?
Yeah, I could jump in, and I like what you said about the ability for people to join from anywhere. In our situation, being a very large health system, you can imagine how busy our providers are. So if we have an infectious disease expert who's one of our MDs that we want to talk about whatever it is, the efficacy of the vaccine or something like that, they don't have time to come to our studio, and you know their schedules are super busy and they're changing all the time. They're in high demand. We have media that wants to talk to them as well. So the ability for us to just send them the link, click the link, pull them into the broadcast, have the conversation. We can stream it live or we can record it, and then we can use it however we need to. So that the accessibility is really a key for us.
I want to plus one the accessibility on like what everybody else has said. You know, we primarily use it for YouTube live streaming, so the accessibility that YouTube provides and all of that. And so being able to use StreamYard to go direct live to YouTube and have the comments synced from YouTube is also a huge feature that we utilize a lot. So accessibility is a major thing.
So that leads a little bit into our next question. Rapid fire. What tools do you use in conjunction with StreamYard?
I can quickly, so we do have an in-house graphics team that kind of helps with some of our graphics that we utilize with StreamYard. But on top of that, you know, when we're doing tech check, we use Google Meet, Google Chat, you know, all of our communication tools just in communication. We also have a community lead platform that we bring everybody together with. But on to the next.
And which platform, if you don't mind me asking?
With our community, it's an in-house one that we've built and put together to have our community connect with each other.
Fancy. Okay, cool.
We're similar to Kyle in terms of we use Slack internally to chat, but same as Meets and all the rest of it. And then our community sits on Discord. So we actually plug YouTube into Discord, and so our community can interact with the stream whilst using Discord. And then we use a tool called Figma, which helps with design when our design team is busy. I've even been known to design some stuff in like Google PowerPoint and things like that. When needed, you can do some nice hacking. And then from an intro and animation point of view and things like that, I actually use a tool called Render Forest. It's got some really great templates, and you can plug in a few different things. And all of a sudden you have this show quality intro and outro and all the rest of it. It looks like you spent a lot of time and effort doing things. So really like Render Forest for that.
I mostly use Canva. If you're not using Canva, if you need to make a graphic quickly and don't have a lot of money or a production team, Canva is my best friend when it comes to other things. And we just use closed caption and the download feature. So, but my biggest one is Canva.
It's awesome. I think a lot of our users use Canva too. Cool.
It's super friendly for StreamYard.
Yeah. We should have some kind of integration. I think that's a good idea.
I agree.
Mike, what about you?
We use the Adobe suite of products, and then we leverage our internal design lab team for some of the creative. And, you know, for our Spectrum Health Foundation virtual donor series that we did, we actually contracted a local studio who, you know, we logged them into our StreamYard and they broadcast out through all their fancy equipment. So it was like a regular television show broadcasting through StreamYard. So
that's amazing to hear. So, and that follows into our next question, where now that we've learned how to use the tool and we know what to use it for, how do we make those content and distribution decisions?
This is a packed question.
I know, there's lots to think about with this one. So
I can go first. I'll try to keep it quick because I have a feeling my answer will be a little different than my fellow panelists. I try to get this in the hands of as many people that are alumni and donors and students and faculty and staff as possible. I try to reuse content as much as I can to get it in the hands of all of our community. I just have a lot more of a tight-knit community in that, you know, I'm not trying to convince other people, but we do use it for recruitment. So I think what I would say is we try to make sure that if we're going to interview someone, we know what questions we can ask specifically to help all of the different audiences. What can I ask to get them to stay engaged and feel connected to the university? What can I ask so that our admissions team can utilize this interview for recruitment? What can I ask so that a teacher on campus can utilize this for a class? And so I think the strategic decisions, I like to make certain that the first goal is that we're just engaging with our guests and that we're making them feel connected, but then to strategically go from there, how can I utilize this and make the most of it? Because when you have a really small team and you don't have a large budget, I want to get the most bang for my buck. So I touch base with our admissions team ahead of time, right? Like what can I ask? How can I help? And then also with our university marketing team. And so I think just making sure that it's not just a one-track interview or a one-track conference, that you can think of every angle ahead of time and then get the most that you possibly can out of it and move forward from there. I think that's the number one thing from my perspective.
And that's such a good tip or pro tip for people just getting started, you know, yeah. Especially when you're on a budget, especially when you're just a one man or woman show, you know, being able to like be super strategic in like, how are we going to repurpose this? In what ways? In what other ways can we use this great content that we're creating, you know, to grow the audience, to grow, you know, the community, like you said.
I think it's even true for like larger organizations. Like we look at it from a point of view as I call it recycle. How do we recycle this content afterwards? And the more we can do things that assist our marketing team and our comms team and our PR team and our this team, the more they're willing or able or likely to share our channel or the things that we're doing with their audience. And we try to get our sales team engaged and we say, hey, share that we've got this event coming up. And they're busy and they've got a million other things to do. But if we can show them value as to, oh, now you're actually giving this information to your prospects or your clients, or the same with our customer success team, like they're answering questions all the time. Well, here's a whole bunch of content that answers those questions for you in a scale type of way. You can then kind of recycle the content across the organization, regardless of size. We also choose where we put our content based on our philosophy is meet your community where they are. So we never make our community, like we have a Discord community. We don't make people go to Discord to interact with us. If you're there, great, and that's how you interact. But if you're not, how do we meet you where you are? So we look at the content we're creating and think of where our audience is sitting, and then we'll multi-stream. So we'll go, as I said, with developer content. So we do a lot of YouTube and Twitch as our main things. But then we may live stream on LinkedIn, or we may live stream in other places, depending on what we're doing, as well as what time limitations other platforms have. So, I've mentioned 24-hour streaming a lot. Not every platform allows you to do that. And so how do we do things that are a bit different? And so we use RMTP feed URLs to actually be able to keep StreamYard going the whole time and switch out the URLs and things like that, so that we can actually live stream faster in other places. So it's just kind of meeting your community where it is the decision to our content and distribution.
Yeah, I love that. And that's how you build, a bigger community. It's being, putting your content where, first of all, where they are, because that's where they're going to see it, watch it, continue to tune in week after week, but then also to build communities on every single platform. Makes so much sense. Quick follow-up question to you, Sammy. Do you stream directly into Discord?
We stream into YouTube and then across into Discord.
Got it. Okay. So
there's
through
YouTube. Yeah, there's an integration and all the rest of it. And it's kind of fun once you figure out how to do all the things. But yes, that's our main channel where our community is.
Got it. Okay, neat. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I can jump in here. When you talk about atomizing the content, we do a lot of that, and we're thinking strategically with our marketing teams about how can we use this content in multiple different ways. So an example would be Heart Month. We recorded a discussion between two of our cardiovascular specialists, and they talked about hypertension and, lifestyle and all these kinds of things. So we had the full interview that we could then reshare using, Facebook Premiere or wherever we wanted to. We can embed it different places on our YouTube channel, on our Vimeo channel. But then we took that same content and broke it up into smaller pieces. And so we could share, one piece on social media on different channels that we maintain and talking just about blood pressure. And then we could share another piece about, the impact on minority communities and hypertension and that kind of stuff. But, then we had one really interesting thing that we did recently with our lifestyle medicine team. They have what they call the Plant Powered Challenge. And so for the month of January was Plant Powered Challenge. And we did multiple broadcasts, multiple recordings with them, shared those in their Facebook group. But they had over 3,000 people that registered to attend all of these different events that we did with StreamYard. So that's another application. But like the other panelists have talked about, we try to make sure that we're talking about how we can use StreamYard in a variety of different ways, whether it's, our regional hospitals, whether it's community relations, we're just trying to make sure that people understand we have this ability to do these things and then integrating it into the strategies that are being developed for these different campaigns.
Very strategic. Kyle?
Yeah, quick +1 to everything that everybody said. As I've mentioned before, we use YouTube Live as our primary whenever we're reaching out to our community virtually. It's through YouTube or YouTube Live. And then I wanted to call out something that Nicole mentioned earlier about how, the accessibility with the distributed speakers. So when you have a globally distributed team, so unfortunately, I don't get to sit next to my team. I'm in my house. And so being able to, make these decisions and figure out a way to distribute the content, the pandemic kind of forced us to think about this differently. It's because we were all working from our homes and our basements or our offices, wherever we're at, in order to reach our community, because they're in the same situation. And so thinking about it from that perspective, like, a lot of our viewers, I've seen a lot of comments, like many of them are doing virtual podcasts as well. And so, I think that's where you're also reaching your audiences in similar situations to yourself. And so how you distribute your content, think about how you would consume that content as well, is what I would add to, but +1 to everything everybody else said.
And that is a perfect segue into my next question, Kyle. How do you keep your community engaged virtually? So you touched on this just a bit, but other than streaming, to where they are, like you said, Sammy, what are the other ways you keep the community engaged since we're all at home?
Yeah, one fun way, as I've mentioned, we use the YouTube live chat integration with StreamYard, but this little bar down here, the lower third, you can pull up questions from the audience. So you can consume live questions from the audience. And what we found, it's pretty fun, because I noticed at the beginning of the stream, it also pulls in their user avatar, their profile picture. And so it's fun to see their name, and that's kind of the sense, like, even though we can't be there in person and seeing their hand raised or walking up to the microphone to ask their question at a live event, and that's a way to, like, hey, I was on the stream, my question was featured, some fun stuff like that.
Yeah, people love to see themselves on the screen, even if it's just their little profile pic in a comment, it makes you feel so special. They answered my question on the show. What about you, Sammy or Nicole?
Very similar. I think we've got quite similar communities. So we do the same thing with pulling up humans' faces and things like that. Also, the nice thing of obviously live streaming to YouTube. And I think there was a comment in the chat about, do you ever take your content and put it on YouTube? But because we live stream to YouTube, that content lives there evergreen forever unless we physically remove it. And so we do a lot of, in our intros and our outros, and even while we're watching, while we're answering questions, is because we have this community. It's, if you're watching this post event, you can still pop into the community and ask those questions and engage with a speaker that, before, if we went to a conference or an event, we'd have to wait in the queue to maybe ask a speaker something, and then they would leave and we could never ask that person something again. And maybe we'd do an awkward, email and they probably never reply. Whereas, having this community around content allows me to go, well, I'm, absorbing this. Even if I watched it live, I've gone back, I've shared it with my team. We advise all our communities to do watch parties where they get together as an organization and sit and get lunch and watch something that we've done. And then they can jump into our whether it be YouTube or Discord or wherever they're sitting, and ask that speaker questions straight away if they can't do it live on show. So love that feature. And if you live stream to more than one platform, it pulls all of it. So if we live stream to Twitch and to LinkedIn and to YouTube, all of those comments come up in the back end, which is very useful, because before you'd have to have everything open.
Yeah, now you don't have to have a million tabs open just for one.
I'd say just a different angle of that. I agree with both of what they said, but I'd say also something that's key is to think about, like, the different guests that you're bringing on, right? So we want to keep our community engaged. So I want to make sure that we're having a variety of different people. We want to make sure we have an alum who is an actress. And then the next person should be an entrepreneur. And the next person should be, someone from a different generation. And so to try to think about, I guess that strategy, but that keeps your community engaged. They're not going to think to themselves, well, I'm not a person who wants to watch a third communication major go on and speak. I want to watch, the guy. It's just true. I would watch it, but I want to think about, how do I keep them engaged? Well, I want to keep them on their toes. I want them to want to know who's next, because it's such a variety of people. And so on top of adding the comments to the screens, you're going to get different classmates of people. You're going to get someone who is a student who wants to go on this career path, but you want to make sure that you continuously feature different people from different areas and different backgrounds, so that your content doesn't get stale. And that's a really key way to keep people wanting to tune in and learn more and also engage with the stream itself.
So many awesome different tools to figure out how to make an engaging stream and put out amazing content, as you all have for so long. We're going to move on now to our Q&A from our audience. So talk about engagement. Here we're going to do it. Here we're going to do a little bit of it. So the first question is from Katie Gorham. And I've seen you on different lives, Katie. Thanks so much for tuning in. So she is going to ask, what is your favorite StreamYard hack or tip?
I love this question. You can
There's
take
a
it
lot.
so many different ways.
There's a lot of different hacks.
And we've already heard very many hacks.
And I was trying to think of something new that we haven't said.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
My favorite is Canva, and we've already talked about Canva today, but just creating, you can really create any kind of overlay. You can create little small videos, intro. I've used it to create a theme song. There's just so many different ways to use that. Yeah, Canva is the bomb. So I'm curious if anyone else has anything.
I love using. I only recently found this out, and so now I love using it. So if anyone didn't, I didn't know you could do animation in your overlays. I always used to think overlays had to be static images. So now we do a lot of fun with overlays and having like if we're doing an announcement for an award, we have a drummer come across the screen or confetti, or kind of have a bit of a play with those overlays. Again, looks very post-production-y, but you can have a lot of fun with it, which I didn't realize you could do until someone actually told me. So,
oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, I was going to bring up something. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention Deanna's comment. Which program did you mention for those animations, Sam?
For the animated videos, which I think is the one that the question they're asking about, is the Render Forest tool. And then for the animated GIFs, funny enough, if you go onto literally Google and Google PNG, so meaning it doesn't have a background, so PNG GIFs, you can then download anything, and then we'll just use a design tool to kind of put into the right perspective. But a simple Google search with the word PNG in it, so you know that there's no background, goes a long way. There's a lot of free things out there to use.
Love it. That's a good tip. Kyle, back to you about Katie's question.
Yeah, with my hack tip, I was going to mention, the animation, adding in the animation for the video overlays is something that, so if you look at some of the stuff that we've done on YouTube, so like our TensorFlow event or the Between the Brackets, we've used it also. So many people I've noticed use it only for intro and outro. We also use it for a transition. So whenever, for the TensorFlow event, I used a speaker transition slot or animation. So whenever I was dropping one speaker off the stage in their screen, I had an animation long enough for me to bring the next speaker and their screen back up on stage. So that way there wasn't the funky, switching and the tiles moving everywhere. So just throw the overlay up really quick, bring the speaker on and off, and that seemed to work very well and made it look very production-y, as the term we coined earlier.
Building off of that, I'll
really
say my number one tip too is to not forget you can change what you're doing in the middle of your StreamYard. Like sometimes I have in my head that I'm going to leave it up with 3 people here. You can move the boxes. You can change the layout. I mean, we did it here today. And I think sometimes because we're live, you've chosen a path and you have to stay there and you don't have to do that. And StreamYard makes it so easy. Yeah, shuffle, go with what you feel, make it look good, and just keep changing it until it's good.
It's so true for also pre-recording stuff. I think a lot of people forget that you can record only on StreamYard. And so if you want some good, post-production quality, just recordings of things, I could pop into StreamYard and do the full recording that way. And then just download the file and it's done and I don't have to send it anywhere. So you can also, use it for other things that aren't live streaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do a lot of pre-recording and then, like I said, we can take that content and chop it up and use it in a variety of different ways. But back to something that was said earlier about putting your guests at ease. A lot of times when you talk about, we're going to go live, people freak out. And so the ability to use StreamYard in the same ways you're using it when you go live, you can use it to record only. And that oftentimes I'll say, hey, listen, this isn't live. If we need to stop and start, do something over, we can do that. And also the ability to record the audio separately. You can use that in a podcast. There are so many different things that you can do with StreamYard. It's really
Just to kind of
really
add
good.
to that, what we sometimes do is we'll pre-record and actually play the pre-recorded video live, which some may say is like, well, then why do it live? But we may, not have time for live Q&A on screen. And then we get our speakers to actually answer the live Q&A while the recording's happening. So their hands are free to be able to type. Because currently now it's a little bit tricky with the chat going on. Sometimes I've seen things and I quickly want to say something, but I've got to focus. But if you're definitely having an event where there may not be time for live Q&A at the end because you've got back-to-back sessions, pre-record it and play it and ask your guests to be there live, but backstage, answering those questions as they come in. And it's way more engaging because you don't necessarily need to be physically there right then and there for some types of content.
Yeah, that's how we're using it for Facebook Premiere, in essence. Because you can premiere the video as a live event, and then, like you said, we can have the providers giving us the answers because I don't have an MD, so I can't answer medical questions. But if people make comments or have questions that require a certain expertise, they can be sitting there with us and we can type in the answers for them. They can type in the answers during the Facebook Premiere event, just as if it's a live streamed event.
And that's another way to make those guests or put those guests at ease, like we can pre-record this if you feel more comfortable, and then you still get that viewer engagement or that attendee engagement live during the pre-recorded live segment. That's a great tip. Last question from our audience. Coffee, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, Cough, says, what's some good tips to tell invited guests on how to prepare their backgrounds and their lighting?
There's a lot. I actually have a guide that I send to everyone because it's just easy and it's simple, and it reminds people about thinking about if you're sitting next to a window, like look at your space, look at what's on the bookshelf behind you, things like that. So I'd say have a guide that I add it to the calendar invite so people have access to it beforehand. The other thing we add, other than like lighting and positioning and things like that, is we ask all our speakers to put a post-it note of a smiley face above their webcam. Because we tend to not make eye contact with our audience. We're talking about something and we check the screen and the monitor, and because we can't see humans in front of us, especially if I'm doing a solo talk. And so we ask them to put with a fluffy toy, a post-it note or something, so they're talking at this thing because it's way more engaging in that way. But I'm more than happy to share our guide with anyone. So if anyone wants to ping me on LinkedIn.
I was going to say, we do the same thing. We have like the same email we send guests every time. Here's the list of things. Make sure you have the right browser, because if you're, again, the not tech savvy guests, some of them still use Internet Explorer, which is painful to say, but it's just true. And it doesn't work, right? And so to make sure that they have that and know how to download it, I think those are sometimes tips that get overlooked on top of just background and lighting. And like, as you can see here, I always tell people too, product placement is important. And if you're, thank you for that. And so like, if you're a proud pointer, make sure that your background displays things that you want them to see. And so I always like to tell people, I didn't wear pointer gear today. I thought that might be too far, but we always encourage them, like, make sure you wear pointer gear if you want to. Make sure that your mug says something that you're proud of and that you want to. And so, on top of the basics of videos, if you're doing a coffee show or a conference or something like that, reminding people that it all matters, not just, the lighting and things like that. The books are a good tip. I'm not even sure what all the books say behind me, and now I should probably read all those titles to make sure.
It's also okay to readjust your guests. So when they join the stream, if you haven't started live streaming yet, ask them. I joined this stream and I stream all the time, and we had to readjust where I was sitting, and because I ran into a conference room at work, which we haven't done in years. I've currently got my laptop on 2 puzzles because yes, we have puzzles in the office. So like, it's okay to ask your guests to readjust. They won't take, you're making it better for them as well, and 90% of the time they won't take offense to it. So don't feel uncomfortable readjusting before you go live, even with all the how-to guides and all the rest of it. Just ask and help.
definitely big plus one to a lot of that. The only thing I would add, to help, I mean, I know my lighting is getting a little wonky, because it's snowing currently outside, and so it's hard to adjust with the lighting as there's snow reflecting, and I have a big window right behind here. So yeah, when I did the tech check earlier, the lighting was completely different. So you're going to run into that when you're doing a live stream. So you can always hope for the best and try to prepare. But audio is a big thing. As we've mentioned earlier, do the tech checks with your speakers, your guests that you bring on. I noticed that there is a new feature within StreamYard about how you can help guests align in their frame and all of that. But pre that feature, one of the hacks that I like to share with guests is if you take a fist and put it to the top of your head, the top of your fist should be where your head should sit in your camera. So you might need to adjust. I love how all of us are doing it right now. That's super fun.
Well, I got an hour in to make sure we were all good, though. That was
yeah.
Right.
But that's just a simple hack that I've used for all of my guests and speakers whenever I'm live streaming or just communicating what myself presenting on screen, is just that one fist width on top of your head, so that way your head is at least down far enough, because we've all been on camera with folks where you're either looking too down, looking too up, that kind of thing. So using those kind of physical hacks help a lot.
Wow.
Mike, anything to add?
Yeah, anything more from Mike?
No, that's my favorite tip right there.
Me too.
Wow.
I'm going to be doing this for a while.
Yeah.
It's a good move.
Anyone else proud of their? I was like, I didn't know, but I got
I know,
it
we all
perfectly,
did
and I
it.
didn't plan it, so I'm feeling really good right now.
Yeah. It comes
I feel
natural.
like I try to explain that to people all the time. I'm like, oh, just a little down, just a little down. I could have just asked him to do that for years.
I know.
Like, can you not notice? Can you not see the angles wrong? Now I'm just going to change my life.
Kyle gets the gold star, right?
Yeah, seriously. I mean, one of a million amazing tips today. I know that I'm definitely going to be thinking about this and for my next stream. But yeah, so thank you all so much for joining us today. We'll go through where to find everybody. You can find Sam. Let's see if we can pull up her link. You can find Sam here at this link. You can find her Discord community and join in on all the fun. You can also find Kyle. You can find him at developers.google.com. You can find Nicole on Facebook at UWSP alumni. And finally, you can find Michael at facebook.com/Spectrum Health. Take a look at how everybody is doing nice moves there. Yeah, it's been such a joy to learn from all of you today. And now we have one of the most fun parts of our stream, which is our giveaway. This is one of my favorites every time. So everyone in the audience, please comment #SYShowcase to be considered for our draw. So we'll give you a couple moments while you all type that in. Please blast us up with that hashtag right now. We'll see who becomes a winner, and speakers feel free to participate.
And while we're all typing in #StreamYard Showcase, Sammy, we've been getting some comments. Where can we find you on LinkedIn to get your guide?
I'm Sammy Hepburn on LinkedIn. I'm Sammy Hep on Twitter. So you can ping me up there, or you can obviously join the Discord and find me in the Discord and ask me there. But yes, more than happy to give the guides. LinkedIn's probably a great way to find me. As I said, Sammy Hepburn. I have a pineapple on my head. You can't miss me. All the pictures I'm in, there's a pineapple on my head. So just look for the woman with pineapple.
Love it. Love it. Carly, thank you. All of our panelists' contact info is listed at the bottom here. hopin.com/events/StreamYard Showcase, SY Showcase _community. Okay, I think we're ready to roll. So what are we winning for this giveaway, Press?
Today, we are winning a water bottle and a hoodie. So
Ooh, StreamYard branded.
I've
All
got
right,
one
let's
hoodie
kick this
for everyone
off.
else.
My favorite part. Mike
Woo!
from NLTMW, congratulations. You are our first winner, but we know you already have merch, NLTMW, so we're going to draw again, but we'll for sure get you that water bottle and hoodie from today. Ooh, here we go. NLTMW, thanks so much for tuning in, Mike. And Aviana, congrats. You just won yourself a StreamYard hoodie and water bottle.
Congratulations.
Woohoo! And thank you so much to all our speakers. This was such a lovely panel, and our audience is super engaged with us, asking all questions. So thank you very much to panelists, and thank you to you out there in the audience for tuning in.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
us.
so much.
Everybody.